Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. We're 5 for 5 today, and we're ending this beautiful, crazy No, it's not Monday. See, that's my world. This crazy Tuesday with the talented Kendra Muecke. Welcome to the show, Kendra.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on, Ted.
I'm so excited to have you on. I love music. I love to hear new music. I'm going to ask you about the bunnies. I already told you that. But the audience probably did their research, but they may not know about you. So give us a little background on Kendra.
Okay, so hi, my name is Kendra Muecke. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I currently live in Los Angeles, California. I have been a performer my entire life. Since age 4, I started in the theater. I started learning musical theater, dancing, singing, acting, and I was just like all about it. You could absolutely see me at the theater like every week, twice a week. And I really like started to be very passionate about it right from the get-go. So I knew I was going to be a performer for forever. And then, I kept with it. In high school, I started writing poetry as well as I discovered rock and roll music. So it was like this musical theater kid realizing that rock and roll music also has so much story and like there's characters and there's like folklore and stuff like that. So I was like, whoa, you can like have musical theater where the songs take the story to the next scene and tell you about the characters, but also there is that prevalent in rock and roll music too. So I was just like amazed, and immediately I loved the grit of like, I went to this rock and roll summer camp called Camp Jam, just like the movie School of Rock. Like
I was just going to ask you, you're talking School of Rock right now.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I thought of the entire time as you're telling that story.
It was really cool because like so it was a summer camp. My mom would drop me off on Monday. They'd put us into put us into bands. We'd learn songs and then perform it for everybody. It was like really kind of like, liberating, and it made me realize like, oh wow, this is something I can be also super passionate about. Then I went to college at Pepperdine University and I studied theater arts. I was like college was interesting because I found a different facet of myself that was like deeper than I had gone before with some things in acting and stuff like that, because we learned
So it
like
was in the theater that you discovered that, doing theater.
yes, doing like Shakespeare, learning about like theater history, how it like carries on from generations. Like back in the day, like tribes would gather together to have like these dance competitions. No, that's the wrong way to phrase it. But they'd have like these ceremonies where it'd be like a dance battle. Like the one tribe dances, the other tribe dances, and then they have a feast and they party and then they go their merry way. And that's kind of their way of having like it, instead of having warring, tribes or nations
That's
next to
very
each other.
cool. I like
it
that.
it blew my mind, and I was like, there's so much potential with art, and there's so much there about the human spirit and about history and like who we are as individuals, and in philosophical thought too. Graduated college. I'm just like going all the way down the timeline.
Well, I like it because what it does for when people, how audience, once they get to know, all right, so she wasn't, maybe she was born with it, but she went through a journey to get to the spot of being able to be confident enough to follow your passion. So that
Right.
story is important. I love it because there's a lot of people who they'll think, oh, she was already born with it and that was it. She hasn't had to really work at it or do anything, and that's the opposite.
Right. Like we see this with like stars that seemingly make it overnight, but there's so much lead up time. There's so many
So
people on their team, so many different gigs. Like I think it was Lizzo who tweeted, she was like, "Thank goodness I did not give up after touring in my car and playing venues where there was like 5 to 7 people." And that totally resonated with me because like all those gigs at like coffee shops, I love playing gigs, like 3-hour gigs at coffee shops, and it's like, it's like, whoa, this is like a real time job. I'm glad I'm pursuing this. It
it,
brings
you
about a
know,
lot.
I think it's if you can figure out a way to work and make money in your passion. I think the work comes to you once you've figured out your groove. It doesn't
Right.
help that we've been dealing with COVID and you can't really perform live with people, or maybe you can now, but you couldn't for so long. were you able to what did you do to deal with or work through basically the shutdown of you being able to perform
Yeah.
live? Did you get more creative in your songwriting? Did you try new things? What was it like for you?
What's interesting about this is that once everything kind of closed down, I just completely went online. I had a tour scheduled to go up the coast of California in April, and I was like, it was like March, mid-March, and I'm like, oh well, maybe I'll get to still go perform in San Francisco. And then it was like April rolled around, and things were just even more closed down. So I talked to my booking agent was just like, let's just move everything online. They went ahead and started reaching out to venues so that we could do cross promoting and cross collaboration for shows. So it's like I've been virtually touring this whole time.
I love that.
I'm sure my neighbors love me. They like know my entire catalog. And I recorded a new album during this time. But I say it's like a layover flight. People are like, oh, have you been to North Carolina? And I'm like, I virtually toured through there last month.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
because, but I love the fact that I feel like artists, especially the creatives, really pivoted quickly because you had to, you're already comfortable normally on stage. It's just a different kind of stage, a different kind of performance arena. But you all did such a phenomenal job of shifting
Yeah.
and figuring out ways to engage, like you were just saying, engage the venues, engage the audience in a way that they normally would not have thought of
Right.
to bring your music to the world.
It's cool because now I've met a bunch of people through these networking opportunities that I would eventually meet or maybe wouldn't have met because we're like collaborating online. So like now I have these contacts at venues. Now I've networked with other musicians. I now have some new friends in like New York City who I got to know through some of the shows that I did, and it's been a really cool time. And as an artist, it's been okay. I mean, obviously it's been difficult like on like personally, but then also it hasn't been difficult personally because I feel very comfortable as an artist in these times where it's like, well, the only thing I got is my guitar and my notebook and my voice.
Right.
So it's been fruitful.
Which are
Yeah.
beautiful gifts. But you're right. It's still difficult. I know. And I want people to know that it isn't all roses. You've got, yes, you have these new opportunities, but it's still, you have to work through it. And artists as a whole, which is why I try to spotlight as many as I can, it's a struggle, especially if your income has been based on the touring and the venues and the performances. And when all of that got shut down, you really had to rethink and then hope that the consumer would engage you at this new level. All right. So
Yeah.
did you write more music during then? Did you hone a craft? What did you do? And then I must ask you once you answer that about the bunnies.
So I've been writing a lot of songs recently. I was writing a good amount before too, but now since I'm at home, I have more time to write. So if an idea comes up, instead of just putting it on my iPhone memo to go through later, I'm just like writing the verse, writing the chorus right now. I also got the chance to record. So to answer your question about honing a craft, I know how to mix, master, and record at home. So during this time, I was like,
Amazing.
I went to school after Pepperdine. I also went to the Musicians Institute to study in their independent artist program. It was a great launching off point for being able to like handle music business, managerial things, PR, and they taught us how to record and mix and master. So I started to record at home, and I realized that there's so much more to like the program that I use to mix and master. So I got to hone my craft on like adding different sounds, adding different flavors to my upcoming album. And I actually just announced, or I'm about to announce the single release date for my first song from the album. That's going to be August 27th.
Woo, that's awesome.
Thanks.
So how do you pick? So I'm fascinated. You still call it album. I love that because I'm
Yeah.
old and we actually had albums back then.
Yeah.
I love that you call it album. where do you come up with the inspiration for your music, and then how do you pick one baby to be the first baby launched, like your lead single?
Yeah, so this one was kind of pretty obvious for me as far as the single goes. I had a really great guitarist collaborate on the track with me, and it's just kind of one of those songs when I hear it, I'm just like, oh, this is it. This is the first single for sure. And it also allows for like I mentioned like those collaborating efforts, and I know that this guitarist can like put their best foot forward on sharing the song as well.
Fantastic. All right, before you sing and tell us about this, what song you're going to perform,
Right.
tell me about the bunnies.
Okay.
We had a whole bunch of people ask. It wasn't just me.
Oh, really?
But they're like, what is the bunnies? So tell us, please.
So I've been going by the name Kendra Bunny for a while. Like on Instagram, I'm Ken Bunny. So when I went around to name myself as a singer-songwriter, I thought, especially since I come from the era in my heart, I listen to songs that are from the era of classic rock. I was thinking I really want to be a band name versus just like Kendra Muecke or just like Kendra Bunny. You know, those kind of sound like don't get me wrong, I love pop and like I definitely do a lot of pop music, but I just felt like I wanted to honor having a band name versus Kendra Bunny. That being said, the origin of the bunnies, that comes about from a few different places. Like I mentioned at the rock and roll summer camp, my favorite song to sing during that time was White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. It really like sits well in my voice. I love the imagery. I love Jefferson Airplane and Grace Slick. So that kind of started my infatuation with the White Rabbit, as well as, of course, I love the story of Alice in Wonderland. So those two things combined brought about the idea of the White Rabbit. But you notice I'm not Kendra and the Rabbits, right? I mean, maybe at like really official events, it'll be like Kendra,
Yes.
Muecke, and the Rabbits, or the Hares, you know, for like more official kind of
Yes,
stuff.
I like it.
But on the other hand, so there was this reality show, this is a stretch maybe, but there was this reality show where the Playboy bunnies were featured in their house. It was just like, I don't know, a silly show.
Girls Next Door.
The Girls Next Door, right. So there was a girl named Kendra on the show, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So then I felt like I had this connection to the Playboy bunnies. So I feel like I land somewhere in between that, kind of being like this psychedelic, you know, philosophical character throughout time, but also being like maybe just like a blonde with like some silly thoughts, like, and some big ideas.
I love that whole story. That is so cool. I can't believe you're old enough to remember Girls Next Door. That is an older. All right, so
Right.
I love it. I also love, I don't know if you've heard Echo and the Bunnymen. There's a whole.
I have heard of them.
But your music is really what I want to focus on. Tell me what you're going to perform for us.
The song I'm going to do today is titled 1776 to 1976. It is inspired by a few different things, of course. So this upcoming album really features a lot of psychedelic Americana. And Americana brings about all these different like stories brought about through folklore and the history of the United States as a country. So I remember like my mom telling me about the bicentennial. She was like 1976. It was so amazing. We all got together. It was a really great way to like celebrate the country. And I just like, that always just kind of like struck a chord with me because it was this big event. And then I'm like, wow, the USA is only 20 years young. That's incredible. So this is kind of what that song is based on. And it's very poetic too. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to move my mug out of here and we're going to let Kendra Muecke, Kendra and the Bunnies perform.
Great. So I just unplugged this microphone, so we're going to switch over to the PA. If there's any sort of interference, just let me know in this chat and I'll be able to adjust probably accordingly.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Kendra Muecke from Kendra and the Bunnies. Today, I am also all the bunnies. What can I say? The white rabbit, well, he's always late for everything. So when I got that text message saying, hey, I'm going to be late for the Ted Show today, I said, no worries, I already knew that was going to happen. Bugs Bunny, he gave me a call last night. Turns out he took a left at Albuquerque again. So he's somewhere in New Mexico. Roger Rabbit, of course, was just framed for murder. And apparently Harvey Rabbit is just a hallucination. We're still figuring that one out. But today, it's me representing Kendra and the Bunnies. Thank you. Say the writing another verse to call my own. A silhouette of when you'd call, many nights and days go by. Too young for telegraphs, too old to let it go. When you turn to me and say to each their own, I pause and jump ship, jump back to when I didn't wait at all for your lack to cope. I jump back to when I strut my gaze so tall. Another speech to set the tone. A shadow cast of dirt and mud, stretching to verify the land was spoke. Too young for telegraphs, too old to ring or phone. A silhouette of when you turn to me and say you're free to roam. but I'm right here. But I'm right here. But I'm so there. But I'm so there. One love, one love. We only got one love, got one love. Many days and nights stayed up, writing another verse to call my own. Thank you.
Wow. All right. So I have so many thoughts going through my head right
Yeah.
there. Definitely when I closed my eyes, that was so Grace Slick. People don't realize that the tone that you have to keep and the range that you're in to sing like that takes a lot of talent.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also, I want to say one of my favorite groups ever. I feel like you sounded a little bit like the Cranberries.
Oh my gosh, the Cranberries are great.
Absolutely amazing. No, I love that. I love the feel of it. I close my eyes a couple of times to try to do that, and I don't listen to the music beforehand because I don't ever want to have a oh yeah, have a plan on that. And sometimes I don't come on and say how amazing the music is. There's talent. There's so much talent there, and there's so much meaning in the words. So 1776 to 1976. I love it.
Thank you. I wanted to mention that it's interesting you pointed out the Cranberries because I like to say I kind of have this 1970s flair, but the way that I write my lyrics and kind of pronounce some of the words is very 1990s and kind of angsty.
Yeah, when I at first immediately I definitely heard Grace Slick channeled there.
Yeah.
And if you've ever listened, of course, I think most people have heard White Rabbit or have heard their music from back then. It's completely different than just Jefferson Starship or Starship. But the Cranberries, though, immediately brought me back because I'm old and I remember the bicentennial. But I remember the Cranberries very well in the early 90s. And just amazing the vocal tone that you have. So
thank you.
Not to sound like Paula Abdul, but so how can people buy your music? How can people learn more about you? I put the website there. Kendra Elizabeth Muecke is down there scrolling. Is that the best way for people to reach out?
Definitely. So you can follow me on Instagram as well. I'm at KenBunny, KenBunny. That's also going to be my handle on Twitter. If you want to reach out to me directly for any sort of like opportunities or you're like, hey, I really need a song written and you have the anecdote, you can reach out to me at Kendra and the Bunnies MGMT@gmail.com. As well as if you'd like to listen to my music, I just so happen to be on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, really wherever you listen to music. You can pull up my name. You just need to look for Kendra and the Bunnies. Here's my debut album. If you go to my website, you will be able to find a link to purchase this directly. As well as I actually have written some books of poetry too. So these are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. As well. And you can get hand-signed copies on my website too. And I'll do a sweet little note in there. And, I love having people read my stuff. It's really cool to have people reach out and they're like, oh, I didn't know other people thought like this.
I had a poet on yesterday who performed. And, it's just such a lost art. And really what you're doing when you're writing a song, he's speaking it, you're singing it. It's still poetry. And it's just beautiful to hear that written word come to life either by vocal or by singing. And you do an amazing job, Kendra. So thank you for being on the show. You all, Kendra and the Bunnies, Kendra Elizabeth Muecke.com. Reach out to her. She's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being on the show and taking time out. You were awesome.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll be back soon, but we're out for tonight. See you later. Bye, everybody.